that our podcast wanted to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
When you hit 1,000 subscribers, it allows you to do so much more. You have the ability to go live from different events, things like that. And Games Weekend, we really wanted to kind of go live and do some commentary of the games, but we couldn't because we don't have enough subscribers. So I reached out to Dave, and he has agreed to sponsor this kind of giveaway that we're doing in our road to 1,000. And that is every time we hit a new century mark, we're going to give away an RX jump rope, the original RX jump rope. You get to pick the colors, you get to pick the thickness of the rope, but we want to give away a rope every 100 new subscribers we get. The key to that is you have to be a public profile when you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. If you're public, I get to see your name. And so that way we can draw from those names and give away that jump rope every 100 subscribers. And so we are super stoked about this. We wanted to do something fun with it, and Dave and his team came up with this kind of concept, and we're really excited to keep moving forward with that.
Yeah, we're excited to help you along with that. And something I didn't tell you, but I might as well put it out there. We're going to throw some other little goodies in there. We're not going to say what they are, but and it may be different every single time, but whoever wins is going to get some extra little stuff in there. So it should be fun.
That's awesome. And so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends, tell your family, because the faster we get to the next century mark, the next time we draw for another rope, and you're involved, whether you are the first subscriber or the 1,000th subscriber, you're still eligible to win in these giveaways. So So I don't know if you remember Amy. Last time we did this by audio only.
Yep.
So now you get to see her lovely face.
I love it. That's awesome. Hi, Amy.
And we have a new co-host since then, Kat.
Hi, Kat.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you again. We've met a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, I've been
a judge. We met each other probably at Granite Games, and then the Winter Classic this past time when you had your wine dinner and all that stuff. So
that was so much fun.
It really was.
Did you judge her at Rogue?
Yeah. I judged on the clean ladder.
Yes, that's what it was.
So, yes.
Memories, good memories.
Yes, all good.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys are all here.
Well, we're really excited to catch up. And for the listeners, we have Margaux Alvarez with us, pretty much universally known as the nicest person in CrossFit.
You guys are sweet.
We've had guests on that have said the same thing. It's not just us. So great. A lot of our guests have said that you are unequivocally the nicest person in CrossFit.
Oh. You guys are amazing. That's so kind of you. I just think it's really important to treat others how you want to be treated, and be respectful and be kind and be generous. I think that goes full circle in life and all things.
So this is your second appearance on our podcast. And the last time we didn't know that you were kind of behind the scenes getting ready for a big event this spring, the Titan Games.
Yep.
And so when I saw the previews and I saw you there, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. So I'm going to turn this over to Amy because she has been worried about you for months to ask the first question.
Well, I think you had already checked in with her, but I was so curious about with the sledgehammer about why people aren't using the pointy part for it.
And versus the other side.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think I got a couple questions or like Instagram messages saying like, hey, if you use the other side, and I think in the midst of it, the last thing you're thinking is like, what's the correct side to crack the cement? I think you're just like, I need to go as fast as I can, as hard as I can to break it and get to the key. I honestly, I definitely didn't think about that there. I mean, I know I've used a sledgehammer a good handful of times, but I think in the midst of the moment, you get so caught up in like what you're currently doing that you're like, oh man, I have to put my safety glasses on and now I need to smash this thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's easy for me to say, cause I'm watching, I'm not in the midst of it, but I'm like, we got to ask her that. I'm so curious. So.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I think, again, in the midst of it, you're you're aware of where you're at and you're aware of your competitor, but I think it's like whatever I need to do to smash it versus the pointy side, the flat side. Someone said like rotate it so it's like wider down, like it's flat. I'm like, you might cover more surface area. I'm like, yeah, but that's not necessarily going to like hit the area of where it's going to break. But I mean, again, for me at least, it was like, all right, what can I do to like crack this with as least amount of strokes as possible so I can get that key.
And it's not like you guys have a ton of time to practice, right? They don't have a million of those for you to try.
No, we had no time to practice. A lot of my training kind of leading into it last year, like before we got selected or as you got selected, or my thought process was, if I get selected, would they have something like that again? So I implemented a lot of like odd object. I mean, I already like odd object movements and workouts already. So like sandbags, D-balls, sledgehammer stuff. It might come up again. So I think I had some like idea of like, all right, if it does resurface, let me do a little bit of training so I'm at least familiar and have an idea of what I need to do to be efficient and effective so I can be successful in that matter.
And every week during the Titan Games, we would do a weekly recap of like how everything was going.
Yeah.
And so since then, as we've been kind of recapping, Amy has also been concerned about your shoulder.
We all have been.
I think a lot of people ask me like, how's your shoulder? I'm like, it's good.
So can you walk us through that moment? Because you were right with Danny at that point, and you turned that corner and you elected to try to go head first or shoulder first, and it did not give.
Yeah. Yeah. So my thought process was like, all right, if I have my body weight, which I'm about 150, 155, and I can like use a little bit of momentum to like run into that wall, I could at least break it or crack it. I mean, if I broke it and like went all the way down the thing, then I'm like, cool, man, that works because then I'm head first. But if that doesn't work, I could at least break it, crack it, and then kick it and then get through. So as I like go to run into it, my body just hits and just doesn't break it and just stops. Like, well, that did not work. My shoulder was fine, but it was more like, okay, well now I have to like just focus on kicking it versus using my body weight. I mean, you think of your body, like my entire mass should hopefully break it. But when it didn't, I was like, all right, well now I need to resort to kicking. But I think being a little tired and fatigued from the 2 previous events, that kind of came into the factor. I'm like, all right, like I was a little exhausted, but it's like, I'm still going to try to break that wall. And I mean, I could have kept running into it, but I knew that didn't work. So I had to like change it up a little bit.
So,
yeah,
so what was the timing like? We've had a couple other contestants on, and they were some of the ones that said you're the nicest person in the world. And that's Courtney. Courtney Rizzo.
Courtney's amazing. I absolutely love her. She's a doll. She's like a sister from another mother.
We had Kelly Stone on.
She's amazing as well.
And they talked about how awesome you were, but they talked about the timing being kind of like similar events were done on the same day, and not necessarily how we saw them at home. But it sounds like that final, where it was you, Danny, and Courtney, all happened kind of pretty much in the same day.
Yeah. So Kelly and I, when we went against each other, our 2 events that we had were within the same day. And then, for example, if there was other individuals where like someone won one, the other person won the other, the tiebreaker, the third one, that would be filmed on a different day or not in the same day of Mount Olympus. So Mount Olympus was essentially when we run the mountain. So those were filmed on different days. But like you said, for the final, it was all filmed within the same day. And the turnover was pretty quick. So like you do the event, you need to go change your uniform, or you need to go get pictures. You need to do interviews. You need to do like little like photos or video clips, B-roll, which that's TV. That's part of the process. So, I mean, you have to just be like, cool, man, this is the cards you're dealt. This is how you manage and work them, which is fine. But again, that turnaround time was relatively quick compared to other days. But again, like you have the scenario. It's like, all right, how do I best adapt to myself or be ready for the next event? So I think that's probably the only day that we had 3 events in a day. I'm trying to remember because it's like, it doesn't seem that long ago, but I feel like this year has been like elongated in very many ways. So I think that was the only day that we had like 3 events. Or I mean, at least, Courtney and I had 2, and then Danny had 2 because she had essentially moved on from the first one. So yeah, the time frame was a little bit shorter. Okay. So you talked about all the television production with it. You're moving on. You have to get pictures taken. You have to go through the interview process. You've also been to the CrossFit Games, which is just a straight up sport, right? It's not, you're not worried about
all of the side stuff. Did the Titan Games fill the competitive thing for you?
That's an interesting question. I think in the sense where I think last year at the games, I mean, that was the first year going team after being individual for 6 years. And so before that, I'd done my kind of own thing, obstacle races, Tough Mudders. And I think I wasn't necessarily looking for a competitive thing. And this opportunity presented itself. I was like, well, this is different. It's still a competitive aspect, but it's a whole nother kind of ball game where I get to experience a little bit of that TV production side. But I also get to push myself in things maybe I don't really know what's going to happen. And so it was something that I think that I like to gravitate towards challenges, and I don't know why, but I always like to put myself in hard situations. Like, can I get out of this? Like, can I be successful? And I think just because I want to see if I'm capable of that, see if I can overcome it and do it. And I think that's where it wasn't necessarily a competitive fill for me, or it kind of like filled that bucket, but it's more an opportunity to like, all right, can I push myself, or can I put myself in a realm where I'm uncomfortable or maybe never been challenged and see how I do? So I think that's where my mindset was for that. Wasn't necessarily training for anything was specific at the time. Didn't really know if I was going to continue to compete as a team like aspect within the games. But I think that it was unique in the aspect of like the competition side was important, but it wasn't more important than like the TV role or the production side, where they want to tell your story. They want to share who you are with the people that are watching, and they want to use that platform to allow you to connect with others out there in the world that maybe have gone through similar situations. That was a really long answer. Sorry.
But a great answer, a great answer. So I have a couple things in my head that I wanted to ask now after that is, one, you have never shied away from a challenge. You have tried Ninja Warrior. You have tried long drive golfing. You have rode, I can't remember the distance, some ungodly distance in the Hawaiian Islands, right?
Yeah.
Like, is there anything out there you wouldn't try?
That's a great question. There's a lot of things that I do want to try, and I think I'm always up for the challenge. That is a great question. I feel like I was having a conversation with a friend recently about things where I'm like, I'm not really like interested in that, but I can't remember what it specifically it was. But I feel like I'm always up to try something to challenge myself to see what I'm capable of. And if I can't overcome it, or I'm not successful in the sense of like achieving it, then it's like, for me, it's like, at least I learned something, at least I adapted, at least I was able to kind of push my bubble of my experience out. And then I can at least give my perspective on it. So hopefully that inspires people or motivates them to go for that. Or maybe it's like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to try that either.
Okay. So you also talked about all that, them telling your story. Were you happy with the way the producers depicted your story? I know you talked about that story with us the last time you were on with your sister and losing her unexpectedly. Did you feel like the producers did a good job telling that?
Yeah, I think they really wanted to focus on kind of who she was and our relationship together. And it's the only thing that was hard or difficult was like not having enough photos or videos to kind of share that experience, because my sister was a very lively individual and there wasn't enough, I feel like in my eyes, enough to kind of show that for them. I had tons of photos, again, from back in the day, which the quality wasn't as good as it is now. But I think that's something that I think they did a great job of telling it, especially with the multiple conversations, because you have a producer that you're working with kind of through the show, before the show, because they want to tell your story. And it's hard because you have all this information, all this storytelling and interviews that you have, but they're only choosing a couple minutes to show. So it's like, how do you pick the best pieces of that story to show and tell? And it's hard to get it all out there, but I think they did a good job sharing it and connecting with people. And I had a lot of people reach out during the show and after the show just to say, man, like, you're so inspiring. It was so incredible to hear your story. I've gone through like my mom passing or my brother passing or my uncle passing or my daughter passing, whatever it is. And I think it was like, that was really touching to me, because it's like, man, I never wish that experience or scenario on anyone. But I think there's a lot of people out there that have those stories. So I'm glad they were able to share it. And I was glad I was able to be open to be able to share that, to hopefully connect with others. And again, I'm always there to talk more, because there's so much more details of what you see here. Like there's that under layer. But I think they did a great job of, given the time constraints, they were able to share that with everyone.
Well, speaking of that reach, you had an audience of 3.7 million on that night of the finale night, and they are not your traditional CrossFit group.
No.
So what was that exposure like for you?
I think it was great. I got to connect with a lot of people that maybe were in the fitness world. Doesn't have to be CrossFit, could be yoga, could be bodybuilding, walking, Zumba. Also connect with a lot of people that were not into fitness, that maybe they did a little bit of fitness, and they sent me multiple messages, and I made sure to get back to everyone. It took me a while, but getting back to everyone and connecting with them, and just telling them like, man, like I have never worked out, or I used to work out and I took a long break, but you've inspired me to like get back in the gym and like, you know, get strong for my kids or get strong for my family. And it was really inspiring and just moving and motivating. Cause it's like, man, like that's a different reach that I've had before. And I'm so grateful for it. Cause it's like, one, I love meeting people and hearing their stories, but it was also two, to kind of share an experience moment together. Cause it wasn't like I was just doing it by myself. We were all inclusive. We were maybe in different spots, but we got to experience it together. And that was really cool. And I think that's where, I mean, as a business owner, you always want to adapt and grow and include and increase your viewership. So within that competitive realm, or even my personal life and what I'm trying to do, trying to increase that to reach more people and hopefully inspire them. So it was a great opportunity and blessing. And talking to The Rock, that was his intention with the platform, with the show, was being able to showcase other individuals and other hardships that they've gone through, or maybe their experience in life, so they can kind of give them the platform to say, hey, like if anyone else is out there going through something like this, this is one example, this is how they got through it, maybe that can help them. And that was something that was really unique and cool. I think they did a great job of casting such a wide variety of individuals, and just getting to meet people around the world that you might never cross paths with. And it was just like, they did a great job of the individuals and the good people with good hearts that were on the show.
So did you and The Rock happen to trade some tequila and wine?
Not yet.
Okay.
I was able to share some wine with him, but we didn't get to share wine and tequila together. So I'm hoping maybe in the future, fingers are still crossed for that we'll get to share that together.
That's awesome.
That's a great question, because a lot of people have asked me like, did you guys get to drink wine and tequila together? I'm like, not yet, but soon.
And you talked about the people you met. You know, when we talked to Kelly and Courtney, they talk about how you guys text each other all the time.
Yep.
And Courtney says she texts you more than anybody.
Yes. Courtney and I definitely, we talk a lot. And I think it's something that, again, the people that they had there, group of people, individuals, just like, man, like how lucky did we all get to all be connected and all be pulled together this one show. And so we have a group chat where we'll keep in touch with, and then we'll talk to people kind of on the side. I actually got to see Kelly about 2 weeks ago in St. Louis, Missouri for a competition down there, which I think was probably one of the first CrossFit competitions, or just competition in general, since everything's been kind of shut down. But it just, again, like I was honored to like meet Kelly and get to compete together and get to know one another. And then obviously like months later get to see each other again. And so you build these friendships that, again, you never would know that you'd cross paths with. I mean, she's in Colorado, so like I'll probably go there because we have the wine there, and maybe we'd cross paths because we both do CrossFit, but you just never know. And so to be able to connect and have those relationships, it's really, you share this special experience together, and we all went through something together. So we have that kind of that central thing that pulls us together, and we kind of revolve around that and still get to live life and hopefully reconnect soon, which we're actually meeting up in 2 weeks. A couple, not everyone, but a good handful of us are meeting up in about 2 weeks, which is really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple of the obstacles. You know, some of them are really high in the air. Some of them are very heavy. Some of them, you know, were just weird looking, and you had to kind of figure it all out. So were there any that gave you fits or something you had to really think about? Because you seemed to like just attack.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't anything. I would say with Mount Olympus, you had to be a little tactful in terms of like your execution going up, the implement where you had to kind of swing up it with your body weight. Think of like a kind of like a kip or a side swing. That was something like you wanted to be as efficient as possible to get up as quickly as you can. And same thing with that log, you got to hold it where like you don't mess up, you don't have any slip ups. But the whole idea was to attack and go, but you had to be very kind of smooth as fast mentality on some of those obstacles. With the first event that Kelly and I did with the wheels, that was like, all right, go, you got to get these off as fast as possible. But the strategy came down to, you know, how many wheels do you pull off? How much weight do you pull off? Do you leave a couple on there and go over, or do you take everything off and then go? And it was hard to know, because it's like, in your mind, like, this should be enough, right? But it's like, it's a game of, what's going to go first. And I remember when I saw her leave, I was like, oh man, I still want to take off more weight. I think I ended up taking off one more wheel, but I was like, I got to go. I was like, because if she gets it, then I was like, if I'm at least close behind her, maybe I could pass her. So it's a lot about strategy. I felt with that one, a lot of strategy on that one.
Yeah. When we had her on, she said, if I would have just taken one more wheel off. Yeah.
And it's hard because you don't know. And that's the hardest part, is like, we didn't have the opportunity to play or work on any of the events, which sometimes you think of like CrossFit competitions, the movements, or maybe an odd implement that you didn't really get to try, but you can practice on. But we didn't have any clue until kind of like the last minute. So you're like, go for it.
Well, did you have a favorite one?
I liked that the wheel one, the first implement that we did, the first event that we did. That was, I think, exciting because it was so fast paced, a little bit of strategy, but knowing like, all right, you have to like gut it through once you get to the other side, so you don't go back over. That was probably one of the funnest one that I liked, most fun one that I liked. The other one that's right next to that was the one I did with Courtney with the poles, because you can't see your other competitor, you don't know where they're at. And we had strategized, all right, I'm going to go to one side and you go to the other side. Because the last thing you want to do is like both go to the same pole on the first lower poles, and then you're just like hanging out, pulling back and forth, when that's not the challenge. The challenge was that middle pole. But that was kind of fun because you want to be quick, you want to be fast, but at the same time, like, you want to make sure you get to that pole first, but you got to make sure you hold on and don't lose it because the other person's on there and you're just kind of going back and forth.
That one lasted a lot longer than we as viewers saw, correct?
Yeah, so that one lasted a little longer. I think I don't know how long we were on there, but that one, I think they cut it down again to like match the time frame of the TV, but we were up there for a good amount of time. The one that took a lot longer than was actually on the TV was the wall lunar impact, where Kelly and I were pushing up against each other, because that one you couldn't see each other either. So you're like, well, how are they pushing the wall? Is her arms extended? Is her back against the wall? Is her shoulder against the wall? And that one, I think we were up there for like 10 to 15 minutes. And in actuality, they show like, I think 2 to 3 minutes. Matt, Chan, and Bartley, they did that same event. They were up there for like 22 minutes. It was crazy.
Insane.
Yeah. But again, like they could show the entire thing, but it's like a lot of back and forth. So they obviously cut it down a little bit.
Well, then you had the event where you knocked the poles over, and then you had to race up the pole to start the finals. And that was so tight.
Yeah, that one was with Courtney. Yeah, that was one that was like, oof, like, again, timing and efficiency.
Yeah, wow.
It was a lot of fun.
So being a CrossFitter for so long, and you get to the finals, and it's 3 people who do CrossFit all the time. Did that make you feel proud at that moment, that this methodology you've been in for a very long time did this well?
I think my mindset was more, I mean, you think of like CrossFit athletes and individuals, it's very well-rounded in terms of hitting the capacity component, the strength component, gymnastics, all like the 10 components we talk about in CrossFit. I think my mindset was like, all right, like, how are we gonna, one, like, I want to win, we all want to win, but it was like, all right, these individuals are all well-rounded. What are they going to change, or what are they going to put in front of us that we need to be able to do and execute? So my mindset was kind of really focused around that. And again, strategy, like, what do I need to do? Because ultimately, obviously, we all wanted to win that first event. So you just hop that second one, you go straight to the final. But obviously that wasn't the case. But I think, again, like I said, like, we all are well-rounded individuals. Again, depending on kind of what comes out of the hopper, depending on what event they give us, we'll succeed or we'll move forward depending on what it is and what our strengths are.
So I'm going to pose this last question about the Titan Games, and then we'll move on to some other subjects. So you are the current king of Mount Olympus, or queen of Mount Olympus, and for the West region. If next year you are the Titan asked to come back and defend Mount Olympus, would you do it?
Yeah, I probably would. Just because it's, again, a new opportunity, something challenging. Hopefully I'm still like training and working out. I plan on still training and staying healthy and being active, but I think that it'd be another amazing opportunity to kind of see who else they have on the show, and see how it evolves. The first season obviously went really well. The second season was amazing. Like I said, talking to The Rock and hearing that each week the viewership was 50%, almost 50% from female to male, was incredible. They haven't had that many numbers in terms of female viewership for a while, or any other project or show or even TV series that I know of. So to have that viewership almost match and almost be equal, female to male, male to female, however you want to say it, I was like, man, that's incredible to be a part of that and to be able to inspire other people, females, males, individuals out there to get to be active or to push themselves, challenge themselves, put them in uncomfortable situations. Then I'd be honored to go back and do that again.
So it was a good experience for you.
Yes, it definitely was.
That's awesome.
Margaux, let me ask you this. Was it, just from a business owner perspective, how lucrative was it to your business endeavors? Did you see a spike in wine sales and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it was great. Definitely saw a huge spike in wine sales. When they covered, obviously, my sister's story and the wine that we dedicated to her, there was a huge interest in that. So we had increased wine sales for like June, July, and August, which is incredible. I'm very grateful for that. And as a business owner, it's tough because we started within a small kind of niche community in a small group. And obviously fitness and wine, I don't think it's a very common thing. People think of fitness and wine in the same sentence. Obviously just trying to break that barrier and just share my message, but being able to have the business have more eyes on it was a great experience. And I would love to be able to do more so we can reach more people. It takes a lot of time and obviously energy, but it was definitely great for the business. And I'm very thankful for that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of your wine business, you are holding a fundraiser tomorrow, right? For Carrie Pierce.
Yes, we're doing kind of a get together, kind of to obviously bring more awareness around Carrie. Carrie's now local in Las Vegas. She moved here in June. And Vegas, I'm not sure if you guys have ever been here. You obviously have the Strip and you have the gambling, the drinking, the hanging out, the partying, which is awesome, obviously. And there's a lot of environment here, but there's also a lot of community and a lot of local businesses and a lot of people that are kind of come around to support one another. And so obviously Carrie's going, I want to say it's probably a week and a half now, maybe a little less than 2 weeks. And so we kind of wanted to do a send off for her, just bring awareness to kind of send her good wishes and support her to be able to help her on her journey to get to the games. Obviously things are different and the dynamic is different this year because of everything that's happened. But if we can bring the local community together and support her, it would be something that would be just, again, obviously special in my heart because I've known Carrie over the years as competitive athletes and friends, but also she's moving into the realm of business with her with her book and also the abs. And so just being able to kind of support another business owner, her, and also the local wine shop. It's amazing. I love that everyone can kind of come together and be supportive.
I thought it was really cool because Carrie's been on the podcast. Bethany has been on the podcast, and you guys are all coming together to.
It is, yeah. And I'm glad.
So.
I haven't seen Bethany in like 2 years since the 2018 games. So to kind of see her again and be able to recircle and be there to support as well, I'm like, this is awesome. It's really cool.
So with that being said, you have a lot of competitive athletes moving to Vegas to work out with you. How do you draw all those people there?
It's funny because when we moved here about 2 years ago, a big reason was to move here to build the business and brand and get more exposure. Vegas is a spot where people come visit. So our intention was people to come try the wine, see our message, and then hopefully take that home with them. Obviously, anyone that wants to come here and travel and train would love that. Obviously, the focus now isn't so much on the training competitively, still training and still working out and being active. Be involved in much as I can in the local community, not only within the fitness, but also the business world as well. But people that want to come here, I'm like, that's amazing. Like I've talked great things to people about Vegas. I'm like, hey, it's incredible. I mean, granted, it's super hot during the summer, but it's only for a few months and then it kind of dissipates a little bit. But I think a lot of people coming to an area we've talked about in the past of like creating Vegas as a central point where people can come to not only for fitness, but also for community, for outdoor nature, like tons of hiking here, tons of beautiful scenery to see. You have the lakes, you have the mountains, Mount Charleston, Red Rocks. And I think people are starting to see that. I doubt it's just from me, what I'm posting, but also I think a lot of people are seeing that Vegas is a great central spot. There's a lot more of things that we want to do, not only with the wine company, but also sharing other people's stories, specifically maybe more women where they're either business owners, they're athletes, and kind of sharing like how they work hard and how they wind down. That's something we're working on. Takes a lot of resources and capital for all that, but that's something that we're working on to be able to hopefully be able to feature relatively soon. We want to be able to, again, promote our message and show our message that it doesn't have to be just about the wine, but about that balance of working towards your goals, enjoying the process and celebrating the successes and embracing the struggles, because those struggles will shape who you are going forward.
And it's not just women. Ryan Elrod is out there. He was on our
Yep.
podcast right after he moved and said that he loved that you would push him in workouts.
Yeah, Ryan's awesome. Him and Emma and their kids are incredible. If you've seen them on social media, they're a riot. But yeah, they're both incredible individuals. So being able to push them, and then hopefully myself push them. We've done a lot of training over the past year and a half, almost 2 years now. And it's just, I'm grateful for the friendships that I made. And I know it's not just one aspect where it's just fitness related, but it's like, all right, we're creating again, community, friendships, and relationships that hopefully we can give back and do more with the local communities here in Vegas.
Margaux, did you vote on the Halloween cookies that Ryan posted on Instagram?
I did.
What number did you pick? I picked three. Three. So did I.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure I think 1 and 2 was definitely Ryan or Emma. I think it was Ryan, then Emma. And I think 3, I want to say was Lily. Like 4.
It had all the stuff on it. That's why I voted for it.
It was everything. And they were like kind of crooked off to the side. I was like,
Yep.
that totally has to be Lily. By the way, if you guys have ever seen Lily, if you ever meet her, she is by far like one of the cutest, smartest little girls, individual, like you'll ever see. And she has these cutest, like big brown hazel eyes. She's just adorable. Anyways.
That's funny.
Well, one of the reasons I love following you, and that you've been over my shoulder since I started the podcast visually, you're right there.
Yes, I love it.
Is that I love your business mind.
Thank you.
Whenever something comes up that there's like a crisis, like COVID-19, you go into action and look at how can we look at this in a different way and still come together. And you started virtual workouts. Monthly challenges. So can you walk us through like, okay, COVID comes, we're in quarantine, and what was your thought process in developing something for the community?
So community has always been key. Over the years, I've always been central around that. That is what drew me in first to the community. And just like the culture of CrossFit and like people being so supportive, and my mindset, it's like, how can I give back? And I think that's kind of rooted to like my sister and just that experience. It's like, all right, I couldn't help her in my mindset. So it's like, how do I help others? How can I give to others that maybe don't have that opportunity? And the monthly challenges we've been doing for a while, it'll be, I think, 2 years at the end of this year. And I think it was really important to kind of stress or highlight those a little bit more when quarantine happened, because gyms closed, people couldn't get out and about. They were really, depending on the state that you were in, you were really encouraged to stay home. And so we tried to highlight those a little bit more, saying, hey, like whatever it is for activity, we want you to move. And for a lot of people that maybe didn't do any activity before, now they have a little more free time. It's like, how can we introduce those workouts? So in January, actually, we started a 6-week challenge, kind of a 6-week fitness challenge where we offered 3 different varieties of workouts: a dumbbell, a body weight, and a scaled version. And the whole incentive or the goal behind that was if you couldn't get to the gym or you're too timid or shy, that you could do them in the comfort of your own home, couch, floor, bench. If you have a garage gym, you could do them there. But the whole premise was to give them, say, hey, here's the workout. It's free. Do whatever you want. Here's the coaching. And then allow you to do the workout. We would provide warm-ups and some mobility before that you could do before or after the workouts. And we did that for 6 weeks. People loved it. Took a small little break because it was gone for the filming. So we tried to do everything before I left for that. And then when I came back, I was like, all right, we want to do this again. We started kind of creating a platform to be able to do more workouts. Then COVID hit. So we ended up releasing it like a little early, right? I want to say like March 16th was when kind of like everything shut down in Vegas. And that's where we're like, cool, let's do more workouts. So the whole goal and intent again is like, if you've never done any fitness, let's get you moving. Let's get you started. And I think a lot of people have a hard time taking that first step. And like, I know for myself, I'm not sure for you guys, but like, if I haven't been to the gym a couple of days, I'm like, oh man, I really want to go to the gym. But I'm like, oh, I got all this other work I really want to do. I could sit and get through all the rest of the paperwork or emails I need for the business. And it's great. But if I don't take that step to get in the gym, I won't get my fitness or I won't get my exercise in. And then that can kind of compound. And so for us, it was like, how do we make it as streamlined, as easy as possible? So it's like, we put all workouts on YouTube where people could see for free. We put them on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn to share. But we essentially wanted to create that community. Instead of maybe going to the gym and you have everyone there with you, you're now on this online platform and you're doing those workouts. And I think a lot of people started doing that because everything closed. And as things start to open, people still have the ability now to go to the gym, but people again are a little too timid or shy to get there. Then I want to say, hey, if you don't want to go to the gym or you don't have the money or the resources to go to the gym, do them in your couch or your room or downstairs, whatever it might be. And so we're still kind of doing that. We've kind of evolved it a little bit into our Earn Your Grapes workout. And we always use like a dumbbell or a body weight. The last 2 weeks we've done dumbbell, body weight, and scale, but usually it's either a body weight or a dumbbell version. If you don't have the dumbbell, you just take it out and do body weight. But again, the whole premise goes into our work hard, wind down message, where it's like you work hard, you earn your grapes, and then you get to celebrate with a glass or two.
That is Amy's mantra.
I live that life a lot.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of people ask me like, oh, what's different than your wine? Like, is your wine like less calories, less sugar? And no, I think because they automatically assume I'm into fitness, they think, oh, your wine is made differently. And we're not focusing on that because obviously people can talk about the health benefits of wine in terms of rest of all of the antioxidants. And yeah, that might be a part that's in there and that people can promote and talk about. But our whole mantra is more like, hey, earn your grapes, work hard to receive that glass or to enjoy that glass or bottle of wine that you're sharing with friends. And it's about balance because I think a lot of people, and I have this mindset too. It's like, I'm just going to keep going and working to my next goal. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, man, it's 9 o'clock and I haven't taken my time away from my computer, away from my phone to really disconnect. And so everyone's balance is different, but sometimes being able to kind of disconnect for a little bit and relax with a glass of wine with your spouse, your family, friends, going out, whatever it might be. We just really want people to find that balance, and everyone's different, but that goes full circle with our workouts, with our mantra that earn your grapes, with our work hard, wind down, and just that lifestyle. And I think we have one life to live. And I think I've just gone through personal experiences where things are taken from you maybe faster or quicker than you want. So I try to make sure that just appreciate every moment that I have and hopefully share that with people around me.
So before we move off the workout, where can people find that on YouTube? What is the channel?
Yeah. So if they just search my name, Margaux Alvarez, then it'll pop up my channels on there. We have our workouts that people can go back all the way from like January, even to previous years. But January up until now recently is where we have more recent workouts. But we had, we called it Fitness on the Go, GAUX before that. And so again, the goal and the intent was to give you workouts if you're traveling a lot or on the road and you can't get to the gym, or maybe you have a hotel gym. That was the next best option. And so people can find it on there.
Awesome. So we haven't checked in on your wine business fully. And I can imagine that maybe COVID helped boost wine sales.
I like to hope so.
So at the time we talked to you last time, you were having a hard time even keeping the goat wine on the shelves. It wasn't even available back then.
Yeah.
Have you been able to increase production and keep up with that a little more?
Yes. So we've tripled our production every time we've done new production. So each year we've increased. We went from 300 cases to 600. Now we're at 1,200 cases. The goal is to continue to increase production. Our eventual goal is to get to 25,000 cases and then 50,000 cases. That's going to take a little bit of time. There's a lot of ideas and projects in the works that we're looking to kind of align and have to come together. Our biggest thing is to increase brand visibility and increase viewership, not only in the Vegas community, but also on social media. And it's hard because a lot more people have had free time recently. So a lot more people are on social media, but it's also very saturated. So something that Alex, my husband and I have talked about where, you go into a shop and you have all these different options. How do you pick and choose? Like, how do you decide, well, that's the wine that I want, that's the crackers that I want, when you have so many options? So for us, we've really tried to do a lot more within the local community in Vegas. We've gotten to a lot more wine shops in the past few months, which has been great. So making sure that we're doing more events locally within the Vegas area. We got into another location last year in Colorado. So we're in 2 places in Colorado, which is great. So we're slowly trying to grow and get into more distribution. The biggest thing that a lot of distributors look at will be like case production, but also how quickly can you sell the wine? How quickly can you get off the shelf? And so that's what we've been working with, trying to be able to market it and advertise it. And a lot of people love it. And a lot of people are going back to it. but it's like, how do we create that wine that it's the go-to wine that people want to say, all right, this is the wine that I want. And it's not just about the juice, because the juice needs to be good. The wine should be good, but it's also creating that story and connecting with people and resonating with them. And right now we only have goat in distribution. I shouldn't say only. The wine we have in distribution is the goat, which I'm very grateful for. I'd love to be able to get Kirsten in distribution as well, just to be able to share her story, share my kind of experience and how I was able to kind of find my way and still aspire to things in life and work towards my goals, even though going through hardships like that might have been a setback for individuals, but it's how do we overcome that? And I think sharing her story and her wine would also connect with a lot of people out there.
So any plans in Ohio?
Yes, hopefully soon. The distributor that we're working with in Colorado, their parent distributor is RNDC, which is a large distributor. And I think they have distribution into Colorado or into Ohio. So I'm hoping that we can slowly get that route as well.
And not to leave Kat out.
Yeah.
So
So
again-
last year at the games, you had to smuggle in a few bottles for me at the athlete briefing.
Don't tell me.
And I'm in Delaware, so let me have it.
Yes. And Delaware is one of the places we actually sent wine out there. I want to say probably like last November, October, to the distributor out there. And it's hard because they're getting hit up all the time from so many different other retailers, wine, hard alcohol, beer. So it's being able to connect and then hopefully be able to secure that deal. We're hopefully going to be able to get distribution here in Montana really soon. That's been a year and a half in progress. And so there's a lot of things and factors that kind of deal into that. So I'm just grateful for the experience. It's a lot of hard work, but my mindset's just like, all right, like, well, I'm just going to keep going and keep trying. Like if I get told no, or I get a door closed in my face, I'm like, all right, like what other doors are out there that I can try to open or hurdles that I can climb over?
Yeah. It's just like being a podcaster. You just keep asking and hope people say yes.
Exactly.
So I know you can order the wine online. So where can you get that?
So people can check it out at thegoatwine.com. We have the goat on there, Cheerson, and another varietal called Le Vigneron.
Awesome.
What's the Cheerston wine about? I mean, obviously the story behind it, but tell us a little bit about that vintage and makeup.
Yeah, so the Cheerson is the most recent one is a 2018. It is a Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot, Syrah, and Grenache blend. So more of like a medium-bodied wine. Has very little tannins, very subtle tannins, very easy and smooth to drink. I usually recommend people chill it for a little bit. You can keep it in a wine fridge or the refrigerator if you have it. Let it chill a little bit. And then as you open it, let it open for about 5-10 minutes. And then as you sip it, you'll notice and taste like when it's cold or chilled wine, it might taste a little more, not necessarily flat, but more like a very similar taste from the front to the end. As it warms up and as oxygen gets into the wine and it kind of, I call it opens up, the aromas become a little bit more. I would say it's a little jammy, but more of a medium bodied wine where you could pair it with pretty much anything, like a charcuterie plate, maybe some like steak or beef. It is a wine that I've noticed that as we've grown, it's become more and more popular. And it's obviously gotten a little bit, this is still relatively young. We bottled it in May. So 4 months now, 3 months. So it can sit obviously in the bottle, but it also can be opened right away as well. Something I've noticed and something we started with cork and capsule. And then with this most recent Cheerson, we ended up going with screw cap. And a lot of people kind of have some hesitation with that because I think people automatically assume screw cap isn't as original or isn't as traditional with wine. Screw caps actually keep out the oxygen better than the cork. But I think it's, again, for us, when we started with all cork because we're a new company, we're a new brand getting out there. I kind of went a little bit on a tangent, but let's a little bit more about that.
That one sounds like a good one. So
Yeah.
I'm going to try it out.
Awesome.
So I'd love to hear more about, the big event a couple of weeks ago where you and Christy got to go back, and Dan and Sam got to go back and compete together. So how was that experience?
It was a really cool experience. It was actually was on the team with First Form. So it was Dan, Christy, myself, and then Jarrett, who works at First Form. All four of us. I think he'd asked me back in like end of July, August, and my fitness back then was probably like 3 days a week doing classes. And he's like, "Hey, you want to be on a team?" I was like, "Oh man," I was like, "I haven't really been working out." He's like, "You'll be fine." I'm like, "No, if this is the team I'm going for, I need to make sure I do some fitness." So it was a really cool experience. I think Like I said, it was one of the bigger events, I think, in terms of the competition that has not been able to go on for the past few months. This was one that a lot of people wanted to go to. I think it was still cut in half. There was a lot less teams previous years. There were no spectators, unless they were like competing in different divisions. But just being able to be back on a team was really fun. Christy and I, obviously, we competed last year, and that was just an incredible individual. I love Christy. I love her husband, Pat. They're just awesome, good people. We had a lot more laughs, I think, than we actually had fitness over the weekend, which is not a bad thing. And then Dan and I want to say the last time we were on a team was 2016 for Rogue Red, and before that was the Invitational in Madrid. And I mean, Dan's just a good person, good heart, good soul. Got to know him really well over the past few years. Actually had him out here last year. We did a wine and dinner event with him. And he plays the guitar, by the way, if you don't know that. But we had him play a little bit of guitar. And again, just surrounding yourself with really good people. Jarrett's been an incredible individual. I got to know him through First Form when I started working with them last year. And just for them, community is also very important, and uplifting one another and supporting one another and being around all these like-minded individuals was phenomenal. And then finding out that Sam was there on another competition. He was with Jared and Christine Cole, which were on 417, I believe. And then they had another teammate there. Just getting to see him, it was, again, like kind of brought it full circle from last year. And it just brought really good memories. Him and Jen Dancer are incredible people, good hearts, good soul. I know they're expecting their first. So it was cool. She looks awesome in shape and then has like a basketball right in her front belly. And so it was really good to connect with everyone. And I think this year, again, has been challenging and tough because a lot of people haven't been able to see people, that haven't been able to do things that they've usually done in years' time. And I think for people that spend so much time around one another in communities and not being able to have that, this was very kind of special, where people were just so grateful and so appreciative and so thankful for that time with one another.
So I have to ask, I'm sure the competition was fun, but was it the competition or the Airbnb that was more fun?
Ooh, I would have to say the Airbnb. We actually, so funny story. We shared a lot of fun stories, fun memories. And I think we just had a lot of laughs there. We made sure to do our post-workout mobility. That was my last month's challenge, was 5 minutes mobility each day. So we did it as a group at the end of the day, which was really fun. And a couple of our friends, I think it was Christy, and I don't think Jarrett had seen Robin Hood Men in Tights. So we watched that movie. Have you guys seen that movie?
Yeah, long time ago.
Okay, long time ago. Yeah, exactly. Dave Chappelle's in it, but it's a great movie. And so it was just a good environment. And I'm grateful to be able to share that experience with all of them. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I have a favor to ask of you when we stop recording today, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
So not to turn things to the bad, but you talk about overcoming obstacles, and you recently had to go through that. You were robbed, and people took some of your very valuable and mementos from the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
Did that ever get resolved?
Long story short, no. I think it was something that was really frustrating because it was more like you feel like a violation of your personal space and your personal property, right? The garage wasn't attached to the place that I was living in. I think that was a good thing, obviously, because it kept it separate. But I think what was frustrating is that people, this happened May 1st. And so it was a time where a lot of people were, trying to, they were out of work, they were out of money. And I think their mindset, I don't know who it was, but I had an idea. I had a feeling that it must have been someone in the apartment complex that I was living there. They'd seen me working out. They'd seen me in the gym. They'd walked by when I was there to see what was in there. And their mentality probably was all right, well, I can take a couple stuff, or I can take her stuff and sell it and make more money. And that's where it was more frustrating. So it's you invade my space, you invade personal property. You don't know my scenario, you don't know my situation just because you think I have a lot of equipment. You don't know how much money I've poured into accumulating all these things over the time. And especially I think out of everything that was taken, it was all obviously equipment that can be replaced, but it was obviously the memento of the vest and a backpack that I can't get. I think the vest was just all right, I earned that. I competed. And that was 2015. That was my best year, where I had a lot of kind of just hard work that poured into that. And I was that was kind of a memento for me. And obviously people think, it's a materialistic thing. It wasn't your life. It wasn't this or wasn't that. And I agree. It wasn't my life. I'm glad I'm safe. And I'm glad no one obviously was harmed. But again, it's that personal violation of you breaking into someone's place, taking their things, and then just thinking, all right, well, are they going to come back? Because my concern and Alex's concern was that they know the garage I'm in. They know what unit number I'm in. Who's to say they don't come back into the house to take personal stuff or go after other things in the apartment? So that was like, all right, that's a huge safety concern as well. So, I mean, prior to that, I carried and I made sure safety was an issue, like in terms of me taking care of my safety issue. But after that, I was like, man, like, who's to say this isn't going to get worse? Not only in that aspect, but going forward, So not to draw that out a little bit, but I think it's for people that are out there, like, you always just got to be safe, be smart. And obviously, like, the items aren't worth more than your life, but making sure that you're putting yourself in the most ideal position for your safety is number one, but also putting yourself so like you can secure your home, your family, your people.
And I understand what you're saying, that it's not worth, it's, your life is worth more than all that, but those were irreplaceable things. And that's what really stinks about it. And like we said, you are the nicest person in CrossFit, and you were actually very upset during that time, and vocalized that on social media. And I'm sad that you weren't able to get that stuff back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I think a lot of people have kind of like followed up from time to time, like asking if there were things. And I looked at Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, all these other places, and didn't see anything. And in my mindset, I was like, I don't think if someone's, not that they were smart, but if they're smart in the sense where like they're not going to put on social media, they'll sell it to someone like in person versus putting it out there. But I was like, man, like I was really upset and really just felt violated. I was like, man, like karma's a bitch, excuse my language, but what comes around goes around. Like, it's going to come back to you. Not that I wish any ill will on people, but it's like, again, that's my stuff, things that I've put blood, sweat, and tears and worked my ass off for. And you'd think people would respect that and understand that, but not everyone has a genuine good heart, or not everyone thinks that way. So it's like, all right, like I still get a little upset and I have a little resentment, but I try to like let it go. I'm like, all right, overall picture, like what's more important, So something that we've, Alex and I kind of talked about, I thought, maybe people do this because, they're trying to provide for their family. Maybe they're really shits at the fan. They have nothing. So they resort to that. And like, that's unfortunate. But it makes me think like, man, like fitness is such an outlet for me. Something that we would like to create in the future is a community center. And I kind of talked about this before, but create a place where people can come and be able to get fitness in, be able to learn how to train, but also learn about business, learn about, work ethic, and so much more that goes into it. But I mean, obviously that would be kind of in the future, but something I think that's really important is that when you work hard and you put the effort in and you put that time, energy, whatever it is, money, that you're more likely on the back end to be like, oh man, I really value this, or I respect other people that do the same. And I think sometimes that's a lesson that you just have to learn, you have to go through, that it's more like the pie is sweeter when you actually bake it yourself. So, yeah.
So being the nicest person in CrossFit doesn't mean that you're not outspoken. And we won't get into the details of this, but you were the first athlete to speak out against CrossFit. And a lot of people don't remember that, but you were the first one that really did that. Mm-hmm. And then 18 months later, the shit hit the fan, as you said earlier. And then everybody spoke out against CrossFit and major change occurred. Do you feel vindicated in any way, or is it just something that you have moved on from?
It's something that I moved on from. I think I made my peace, shared what I shared, and then decided to kind of move forward. It broke my heart in a lot of aspects, because when I found CrossFit, it was kind of like, like a home away from home in terms of pushing myself, challenging myself. Like I said before, and I've reiterated over the years, is community has been number one. And the support and the camaraderie has been incredible. And I think that was something that being able to be on staff to travel and meet other individuals and hear their stories about like how they lost weight or how they were able to get stronger to pick up their grandkids or their fitness journey, and just being able to connect to people, like that has always held a special place in my heart. And being able to be a part of that staff and the relationships I made with other trainers, I've met lifelong friends that I know, like, even though we don't do the same thing now, that we'll still be friends and we'll still share incredible experiences. And it was hard because that was something that I truly loved and enjoyed. But I had to say, all right, what do I need to do for myself going forward? And so I think once I kind of moved through that and moved past, I was like, all right, that was a page that I turned, and now I need to focus on the next page that I'm working on writing or working on creating, so I can give back in a bigger picture.
Yeah. When everything happened and CrossFit was selling, what blew me away is you actually had thought about buying CrossFit, and you put together a business plan and published a good chunk of that. And I was blown away at how detailed of a business plan you put together in a very short amount of time. And that's why I just love your business mind. And I love like following you and all that stuff. But when I talked to you by email and you said, when the sale went to somebody else, you've just moved on. You turned the page and focused on other stuff and into your wine and all of that. Is that easy for you to just change that pivot and change focus?
Sometimes I think I've kind of learned in life, and I've used this analogy a lot sometimes, like I'm a very caring, giving individual. And over the years, I've learned that sometimes relationships or endeavors that you get into may not be mutually beneficial. So the energy and time that I put into something, I'm going to give as much as I can, be all into it. And I think, and this can be a double-edged sword sometimes for myself, but sometimes I keep an arm's length distance, no matter how close or how in I let individuals or scenarios or situations or projects. If something happens where I'm like, all right, like they're not working out, or it's not worth my time or energy, or things are going a different direction, instead of trying to say, oh man, like, no, come back. Like, we're really going to make this work. Like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Not that there might be some finessing, like if you have, some like silly putty that you maybe need to work, or clay, if you're trying to make a pot, like there's going to be a little bit of finesse or a little bit of work that might be entailed, but it might be worth it in the end. But sometimes I'm like, all right. And I think as I've gotten older and I've gone through more situations, I would get more nervous at conversations, or more anticipations where okay, I'm going to pitch this individual, or I'm going to tell them my business plan, or I'm going to tell them my vision or what I want to do, or have a conversation. And I think as the years have gone on, I've learned to be able to adapt and be a little more flowing, where it's like, all right, it didn't work out. Like, I'm not going to hold on to it and try to like make it happen, because if there's more effort being expended to make it happen, what's going to be on the follow through? Is it going to require even more work and more effort to make it really happen, when it's like, maybe I should just say bid adieu, and move on from there. So I think it's something where I kind of take it situation or project by project. So I kind of know, all right, is this worth my time and energy? And I'm all ears, always open to hear things, always willing to work and be kind of aware of what's coming, or what might be available. At the same time, again, if it's not worth it, or it's like, all right, it's not going to work, but we're trying to force it. It's like two magnets that aren't going to like fit, but you're trying to make it happen. It's like, all right, maybe it's time to just, again, turn that page and move on.
So the last question I'm going to ask you about CrossFit or anything, it'll be my last question, is, now they have an athlete association, Professional Fitness Athletes Association, and CrossFit has hired an athlete council. Do you think these are things that CrossFit has needed for a long time? Or
that's a great question. I'm not sure, because they haven't had it for a long time. And it's hard to go back and say, all right, well, if they would have had this, it would have been better, or it would have worked out. I'm not sure what's going to happen going forward. Obviously, given the state, like, Reebok's contract just ended. A lot of things are kind of ending this year. So it's like, all right, what's going to happen going forward? I mean, I know there's a lot of people that I spoke to that are still interested in competing at a high level, and they still want to put in their time and dedication to that. And I respect that. And a lot of time does go into it. I've dedicated like 8-9 years of it into it, and it's been rewarding. It was worth it. Like I said, I'm turning chapters and still interested in competing, but maybe different facets, different things, half marathon, I don't know, strongman competition, whatever comes my way. But for them, it might be something that might give some structure going forward. It all depends on, again, I don't know the details and the nitty gritty, but if it allows them to have more communication, I think that's going to be helpful, because I think communication, as much as we have like social media and news and TV, think that interpersonal communication, the face-to-face or via Zoom, however it is, that communication, I think communication's underrated sometimes, where there's more of that. So if that allows for that, then it might be beneficial and might help them in the changing landscape going forward.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions?
I mean, I think
I have one. I have a fun one for Halloween's coming up. I want to know favorite Halloween candy to pair with a glass of goat.
Oh, Reese's Pieces. I didn't have to think about that.
Reese's Pieces. I love it.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I would say Reese's Pieces. Another way, if you don't want to do Reese's Pieces, you can get like a spoonful of peanut butter, put some chocolate chips, like sprinkle the chocolate chips on there, and then just like eat that. I definitely won't say I've done that before.
It sounded very specific.
I know. I was like, oh, I got one. That's funny. Yeah, I would say probably that one's probably the best to pair. I probably did that like, I want to say last week or maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's a good question. I like it.
Well, if you guys don't have anything else, thank you so much, Margaux. It's
Of
always a
course.
pleasure to talk to you. You have such great insight, and we're glad you came on the show.
You guys are all amazing. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. If you guys ever come to Vegas too, let me know.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. You're like, sign me up.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Go!